The causal closure of the physical, a principle that's so often invoked as a scientifically established truth on the rather thin basis of the fixed proportionality of matter and energy in the universe, among other things, but which is merely a metaphysical dogma and one that even otherwise sophisticated theorists have often translated into the crudest kind of physical determinism. I have known learned physicists who still talk as if, at least once reality passes the threshold of quantum decoherence, something like Laplace's fantasy holds true. A demon of superlative intelligence, knowing at a given instant the precise location and momentum of every atomic particle in existence, could both reconstruct the entire physical history of the universe and foresee its entire future. True, these physicists might all have granted that statistical thermodynamics probably dictates that this would not be literally possible, but still they spoke, and I'm talking about real people, by the way, that I know at Notre Dame. Some of them were Christians, but nonetheless, they spoke as if, in principle, all events at higher levels of physical organization must be reducible without remainder to lower, more particulate causal moments. Hence, if our demon could somehow account for irreversibility or quantum indeterminacies, maybe by a perfect grasp of maximum entropy thermodynamics or by an occult knowledge of quantum hidden variables, he could, from the disposition of all the atoms and molecules composing me and my environment last Wednesday at noon, have infallibly predicted my presence here today, because everything we do is the inevitable macroscopic result of the ensemble of impersonal physical forces underlying our formal existence. And yet all of us know this to be false. This is the special absurdity of allowing an artificial method appropriated to an isolated facet of reality, nature considered as a machine, which is to say nature considered as though devoid of anything analogous to propulsive intellect, to hypertrophy into a universal judgment on all of reality, including those of its aspects, such as, obviously, instances of propulsive intellect that actually exist, to which such a method cannot possibly apply in principle. To whatever degree I am a physical system, I'm also an intentional system whose mental events take the forms of semiotic, that is, symbolic and interpretive determinations, and whose actions are usually the consequences of intentions that are irreducibly teleological. I got on a plane to come here. I don't like doing that. I'm not afraid of flying. I'm afraid of how small the seats have gotten and how big I've gotten. As such, these intentions could appear nowhere within a reductive account of the discrete processes composing me as a physical event. Final causes are not visible within any inventory of the impersonal antecedent physical events composing me, described as third-person events. Simply said, I have reasons for being here, and reasons are qualitatively unlike mechanical forces, even when inseparably allied to them. Any good phenomenological description of my choice to be here would be one that could never be collapsed into a physical description of atomic, molecular, or even brain events. Yet, of course, at the level of the exchanges of, yes, I'll agree with this, at the level of the exchanges of matter and energy, or of their interchangeable mathematical values, the natural order may always have to even out into an inflexible equation. I'm all for the conservation of energy. But the movement of those material and energetic forces is also directed by causal or rational relations of a different kind, which impose upon the flow of physical events formal and final determinations that are not merely the phenomenal residue of those events, and that are not visible to those aforementioned physical inventories. The obvious physicalist repulse to this, of course, is to claim that all intentionality is in some sense illusory. We get back to the eliminativist position. Or reducible to complex electrochemical brain events, which are in turn reducible to molecular description and then to atomic description and so on, but that too is obviously false. Not that I have the time here to argue the point comprehensively. So again, I defer the issue to my book. I'll simply note that over the past few years of my research in philosophy and science of mind, I've become more than convinced that every attempt to fit mental phenomena, that is, qualitative consciousness, unity of apprehension, intentionality, reasoning, and so forth, into a physicalist narrative has to prove a failure. Which, again, is why we are at a moment where these two seemingly absurd extremes of panpsychism and eliminativism are the two most powerful philosophical parties in philosophy of mind. If nothing else, mental intentionality in the full philosophical sense, not only of determinations of the will, but of every act of the mind in orienting itself towards specific ends, meanings, aspects of reality, and so on, is clearly a part of nature, and yet one whose irreducibly teleological structure is contrary to the mechanical picture. This is why, among devout philosophical physicalists, these wild extremes are au courant. The mental, it turns out, is no more reconcilable to the modern picture of material nature than it was in Descartes' day.